So this Wednesday evening, we just want to say Happy New Year to you. We're just glad to be back with you, glad to be back in your presence. And we want to get right into this teaching, and we want to talk about bridging the generation gap. Talk about bridging the generation gap. When we look at the word bridge, uh, when we talk about bridging the generation gap, it means having the ability to connect, or should I say, bridging the gap means having the ability to connect things in a reasonable, understandable way to fill in a space between two things. It also means to diminish the difference between two things or lessen the difference between two things. I want to submit to you in this teaching is that in the 21st century, God is looking for believers. He's looking for believers. He's looking for those who would hear his voice, those that are mature, believers who are spiritually mature enough to connect with, diminish, and minimize the difference between young and old generations. I want to say that again. In this 21st century, God is looking for believers who are spiritual enough and mature enough to connect with, diminish, and minimize the difference between the young and the old generations. People don't understand that. We're living in a time where we have got to come together. These generations have got to come together, the old and the young. And I know there's a challenge, as older people, sometimes the older you get, the less patience you have. And you build your own world, and you come up with this thing where I've been there, I know what the problem is, I have the answer, and if I could just get the young folk to listen to me. And then we have the young people, they say, well, look, they old, they out of date, we're having a different time now, we're in a different culture, and we're just not doing that anymore. They don't understand, they don't have the patience, they don't listen to us. They want us to listen to them, but they don't want to listen to us. And things are just not the way they used to be. And as a matter of fact, I don't think they know too much. That's the way the young people think. And so we need somebody, and particularly it needs to start in the kingdom of God. We need to bridge the gap between the young generation, between the young and the old generation. And we've got to start somewhere. Name calling and blaming and all of this kind of stuff, that's the easy way out. But we have got to make sure that we don't lose our young generation. And there has to be a wave. There has to be a way. Look, anybody that's in their 90s, 80s, and 90s, they need to be able to connect and pour into those that are in their 60s and 70s. And the ones who are in their 60s and 70s need to be able to connect with the generation that's in their 40s and 50s. And so you just kind of divide down every 20 years on down until you get all the way down to our babies. And we've got to, and I know, look, I get it. When you get a certain age, you feel like you have paid your dues. Yes, you feel like you've paid your dues, you've lived long enough, you've been through enough to where you don't have to take all of this other stuff. It's time for folks to listen to you. But that's probably, in my mind and what I've experienced, that's the problem right there, is that we get to a certain age and we feel like we have arrived and, everything has to be according to how we think because of our experience and because of what we've grown through and what we've, we have contribute to society, and especially if you're a person that you're successful and your name is out there and you've done great things in the community or great things in this world or you've helped a lot of people, you have to really be careful because you feel like you're in a point where everybody has to listen to you and things have to change to your way of thinking and your way of doing things. And that kind of mindset pushes young people, the younger generation, it pushes them away. We always have to have, as we get older, we have to have a mindset. And we have to always pray to God. And I'm just speaking from my heart. We have to pray to God that he would give us the wherewithal to be able to communicate with our younger generation. We've got to be able to identify with them. We've got to be able to communicate with them. We've got to be able to speak into their lives and understand where they're coming from, understand their feelings and their emotions, understand their culture, understand that they're living in a total different world than when we were growing up. Understand, ask God to give you pray to God that he would somehow help you to remember the things that you did when you were 18. Pray to God to help you remember the mistakes that you made, or should I say, and we made mistakes, but they're just, pray to God that he would help you to remember your mindset. And you know that when we were growing up, that there are a lot of areas that we were rebellious in. There were a lot of areas we were stubborn in. There were a lot of times we told ourselves, but we didn't dare tell our parents, that they didn't have no sense, that they didn't know anything. They didn't know what they were talking about. You were so tired of hearing it. You wanted to go somewhere and just lose it, all of this stuff. And so you have to remember that the younger generation, they're going through the same thing. But theirs is a little different because they have all of these distractions that we didn't have growing up. They have social media, which is a huge distraction. They have these fads that come out. You know, they got all of this stuff that's just, in our minds, is so immoral and ungodly. You know, they're dealing with all of this, and then they're dealing with stuff that's going on in the world and from leadership that makes no sense and just causing problems and issues. And so they have all of these things that they're going through, and we're trying to help them to do what's right, and we're trying to teach them moral values and trying to teach them God's way. And they're growing up in a society, in a culture where God is not popular. Going to church is not popular. Talking about the Lord leading you and guiding you is not popular. Talking about giving your life to Christ, not popular. Nobody's doing that anymore. Nobody's talking about that anymore. Matter of fact, they're being taught that they themselves are gods. You are your own God. You are your own individual. You know, you have to, if you want to do something and be somebody, look within yourself. Really. And this is what they're up against. And so what we have to do as mature adults and older individuals, and those of us who, I like to say, I don't like to use the word old, I like to use the word elite. You know, those of us who are in the elite age, we've got to push the pause button and tell ourselves, what is it that I need to do to get into this young person's life? Lord, teach me how to communicate. And the first thing we need to do, because we want them to listen to us, but we won't listen to them. The way you get somebody to, this is very simple. The way you get somebody to listen to you is that you keep them talking and you listen to them. That's how you get them to listen to you. And so we have got to talk to our young people, and we have got to listen to them. We've got to find a way to keep them talking so that we can hear what they're saying. And when they're talking, when you keep them talking and you ask them questions, we're so quick. We want to have the answers. This is what you should do. Well, you ought to not be doing it. No, none of that. Don't do any of that. Just listen. And as you listen, God will show you and help you to identify their hurts, their pains, their likes, their dislikes, their mindset, their belief system, their value system, their morals, just by simply being patient enough to sit down with them and listen. And you're not going to get all of this in one setting. And you're not going to get all the information from them just one time. You get information from kids and from young folks or from individuals that you're trying to connect with little bit by little bit. This situation, finding the right timing, seizing the opportunity. Opportunities present themselves every day, all day long, and you've got to know when the right time to sit and talk to them and ask them questions and find out why they think like they think, and find out the influences that are in their lives. And you also, as you talk to them, you find out how much influence you have in their life. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't spend time talking to them, and should I say, giving them a chance to just pour out and talk to you, somebody else, some other thing is going to be the most influence in their life. And you must understand that whoever has the most influence in their life is the one that's going to be leading and guiding them. And so what we have to do is we have to always ask God, Lord, what, and look, it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice to talk to somebody, listen to somebody that makes no sense at all to you. It's a sacrifice to listen to somebody and they saying one thing, and you know if they keep thinking like that, they're not going to live long. If they keep thinking like that, they're going to be broke, poor, in jail, dead. They keep thinking like that, they'll have no friends, they'll never have a job. And so it's frustrating, but what you have to do is you can't give them any answers. Just simply listen. Listen. We don't have enough people who are patient enough to listen to our young people. And those of us who have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience, it's really hard to keep your mouth closed. When you're talking to somebody and you're asking them questions, they're talking to you, we're talking about young people. You're talking to a young person, and basically you got answers that pop up that solve the problem. As they're talking, you have answers right there. But you got to train yourself and discipline yourself to say nothing, because I'm going to tell you something. It's not always what you say, but it's how you say it. It's how you say it. And so if you're talking to a young person and you have the answer, you're telling them the truth, but you're saying it in the wrong way. You're saying it with the wrong voice tone. You're saying it out of your emotion. The thing about communication, you're not communicating if they're not receiving what you're saying, if they're not taking it to heart to where they're going to do it. There's another thing I want to share with you. Sometimes saying the right thing, you can say the right thing at the wrong time and still be wrong. You feel like, according to what they said, I must say this, and you don't really need to say anything. We don't need to say anything. And so here again, and I believe God has called us Christians, those of us who are believers. I believe he has given us the wherewithal. He's given us the knowledge, the wisdom, the know-how, the patience, everything that we need so that we can be the ones to bridge the gap. In this bridge the gap with the old and new generation. Here again, there's a huge gap, a vast disconnect between the age, morals, values, culture, intelligence, knowledge, discernment, and the list goes on and on. You know, when it comes to age, people, they do things that are age appropriate. They wear things that are age appropriate. They go places. You know, young people, they want to get out and they want to go. Older people want to stay at home. Young people want to get out and go. Older people, they satisfied with going to the grocery store, going to church, and call it a day. Young people want to get out and have fun. They want to be around their friends. They want to play games. Older people want to sit quietly somewhere in a corner and read a book. Young people, their morals are, if you do good to me, I'll do good to you. I'll do for you and you do for me. I don't bother you and you don't bother me. And that's the end of the day. Let's not get into this deep stuff about God, my Savior, and God, my Lord. And I've got to serve the Lord. And I got to give God my time and my 3 talents, my 3 T's, my talent, my treasure, and my time. They don't want to hear none of that. They don't want to hear that. And so, and then when it comes to the culture, there are certain things that culture is where there's a certain mode of operation that's going on in the world. This is what everybody, for the most part, does. This is what we do at this time in our life. People go here, they go there. So we're living in a culture where entertainment is way up here, whether it be sports or music or whatever have you. And culture, entertainment and sports and music is very important to this young generation. And to a lot of the older generations, we've been there. We don't want to go to no games. We're not interested in all this concerts. Even if it is a gospel concert, we don't want to go. We're just not interested. We lived our life. We've been there. We don't want to go to any amusement park. We don't do any of this stuff. And so, in order to bridge the gap, we've got to become young again. We've got to try to enjoy some of the things that they enjoy. That's one of the reasons why I try to stay healthy, because at any given day, my son might want to play basketball. Okay, and so you got to get out there. I can't be talking about, I'm tired, I'm hurt, I'm too old. That doesn't do anything for him. Okay, or want to throw the football, or want to hit, or just do some things together. And so we have to understand that. And I want to say this, you have to understand that we have to be a blessing as older individuals. We have to be a blessing in a young person's life. Okay? We need to sacrifice. We need to sacrifice. If God has blessed you to live 80 to 90 years old, or 70 to 80, 90 years old, man, what else do you need? Don't you think it's time for you to sacrifice and pour into somebody else's life and help them get there? Think about this. Think about all the people that God connected you with as you were growing up. People that were older than you, that were 20 years older than you, the older generation, how God connected them with you and they poured into your life, and you are actually a quality person because of that. So guess what we need to do? We need to return the favor. And always understand, don't look for the young people to be doing stuff for you. We need to do things for them. Remember, the Bible talks about the lesser is blessed by the greater. The lesser is blessed by the greater. In other words, you at a point in your life where you have the knowledge, you have the financial security, you have all of these things that's solid in you. Now it's time for you to give back and bless somebody else. And we shouldn't we should start doing this with our own families, but we should also do it in society as a whole. Wherever we find opportunity to give back to the next generation, we should do it, because all we're going to do is help each other. We're going to help ourselves. When you talk about bridging the gap, see, when you build roads because you're going in a certain direction. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the road. But on that road, there are some ravines, there are some canals, there are some waterways. They're called obstructions. There are some obstructions on the road where we're on our way. And in those obstructions, we've got to be able to build bridges over that. We got to build bridges over the canals, over the ravines, over the waterways. And all of this stuff that these young people are going up against that's detrimental to their life, detrimental to their health, detrimental to their way of living, detrimental to their very souls. We have got to find a way to build bridges over there to fill that gap. We've got to find a way. I've gotten to the point where I don't mind sacrificing. I don't mind giving up. I don't mind hurting. I don't mind being in pain. I'll do what I got to do to make sure that my younger generation will have what they need, that they're equipped. They might not be manifesting all of this stuff, but at least they are being equipped with it. I'm taking time to teach and train. We've got to take time to teach and train this younger generation. I know you've done your time, but you're not dead yet. I know you've done your time, but your mind is still sharp. I know you've done your time, but some young person need the wisdom that you have, that God has given you. I know you've done your time, but there's somebody that's crying and they don't have any direction in their life. They haven't been trained. They haven't been taught. They haven't had the opportunity. They don't know any of these things. And God has loaded you up with a wealth of talent, knowledge, and wisdom. So why don't you take the time to pour into them? I know it sounds like this teaching is a one-way track. It sounds like but I need you to understand that the burden is on us as older individuals to pour back, to give back. To give back. I'm in this vision because I'm in a situation. I'm in this vision because I'm obligated to give back. I'm obligated to give back. I am obligated to give back. I'm obligated to give back because of what individuals have given to me. And I know my time is just about out. And we're going to be talking about this more and more. We're going to talk about this more and more. I want to dedicate this teaching to one of my teachers, one of my sixth grade teachers. Her name is Miss Fowler. I want to dedicate this teaching to her and her husband. She taught me in the sixth grade, and I was the teacher's pet. In other words, she saw so much in me, and she loved me so much that I could pretty much do whatever I wanted to. I remember the time when the whole class, back in those days, if the class was disruptive, then you couldn't go out for PE. You could not go out for PE, and that was a big punishment, And I remember she walked in the class, and the class was talking and stuff, and she said, "Everybody here talking, y'all not going out. You're not going out for PE." She said, "Lenore, I know you weren't talking. You always good. You can go." She let me go out for PE, the only student in that class. Now, I probably had a bunch of enemies that day. I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm the only one in the class out there playing with everybody else. But she was the type person, and she told me years ago, she said, "I saw something in you." She said, "You were different. You answered questions different. I saw something different in you than I saw in other children." And so I am indebted to her and many others like her that have poured into my life to help me be the individual that I am. And so what we want to do is we want to do like our parents have done, my mom and my dad and your parents. We want to pour back. Pour back. So we're going to be talking about next week. We'll get into talking about coming together. I'm going to bring up this word again that I mentioned last year, amalgamating, which means merging, becoming one, teaming up, as in joint forces, working together, old and young working together. And then the scripture that talks about over in Ecclesiastes 4, talks about two people can accomplish more than twice as much as one. So the two generations coming together, we can accomplish much more than the old staying here and the young staying there. But there are so many things. I just wanted to introduce this, and I believe God is putting that on our hearts, on my heart, so that we can move forward and bridge this generation gap that we have. If you look around you, and it's not just this ministry, it's in most ministries, it's all over the world, you see young people are absent. They're just not interested. And somewhere along the way, we've got to bridge the gap. God bless you. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening.